think.
Hello and welcome to the Addicts Anonymous podcast. I'm your host, Jim R. Today is episode 105, and we're going to be interviewing Angie D. How are you today, Angie?
I'm doing pretty good.
All right. Did you click accept to record and all that?
It didn't, it said got it. Like I don't
Okay.
know.
And you clicked got it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what it means. So let's get this started and dive in. Tell us about your childhood.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it's a good one, right?
Well, I was born in New York, and my mother she was a lady of the night. And then I guess
What is that? Just so I'm clear, what do you mean?
She was a prostitute. I was being sarcastic. Yeah, she was a prostitute.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought, but I wasn't sure. I
And
don't
she
think I've
had,
ever heard that
she
term.
had cocaine issues and things like that because,
Okay.
it goes with the job. So I guess, I don't know what made her move us all down to Florida. But she did. And she ended up pairing up with my stepfather, and he had 3 kids and they were all babies. Donnie was 2, Stormy was 1, and my brother Jason was newborn. Yeah. And I kind of got thrown in headfirst into being a big sister, which I had never been. So the abuse didn't start right away with my mother. Like when I was little, I don't really remember her ever reprimanding me, but then there came a time where she just hated me. I mean, I had one of my cousins from my stepfather literally was in the house and just looking at my mother. I was reading a book on the same couch, and my mother was just looking at me with disgust. And she would reprimand me physically, like beating me, but also her abuse was verbal as well. And not only did she beat me, but she would say, well, just wait until your dad gets home. And my stepdad would get home and she would tell him all these things that I didn't do. And of course I'd get in trouble again. So I don't feel like me and my siblings were raised to process emotions.
Was your dad physically abusive also?
Not my bio dad, my stepfather, yes. Yes, he was. He feels really bad about it now. He's apologized, but I mean, the damage was done. So at least I got the apology so I could move past it with him. My mother never apologized. Never. She always blamed him. And she was just awful. I basically was a caregiver for all the siblings. I cooked, I cleaned. We lived on a farm. I'd feed the animals, muck out stalls. And it seemed like nothing I ever did was ever enough for my mother. So I didn't really have a good relationship with her. And I ended up getting pregnant at 14, getting married at 15, and having her at 15. I don't know how that happened. Now that I'm an adult, I'm like, how did we even do that? But we did. And that child marriage lasted 7 or 6 years. And I have a 28-year-old daughter from that marriage. And I was a kid. And so pretty much me and my daughter grew up together. But I was also an alcoholic by the time I was a blackout alcoholic by the time I was 13. And I stopped drinking when I found out I was pregnant, of course.
And how old were you again when you were pregnant? I didn't hear before.
I got pregnant at 14.
Okay. So yeah, very, very young.
Yeah. I had her at 15. I was married by 15. And it wasn't ezy. It was not easy for me to be a mother, an employee, daughter, everything. So that was pretty much my childhood. We weren't taught to process emotions. If we cried, it was, oh, keep crying and I'm going to give you something to cry about. If me and my siblings were playing in the house and if we laughed too loud, we were thrown out of the house all day. And we lived in West Palm Beach, Florida. So you already know it's like Africa hot. Like there was so much condensation in the air, like you could barely breathe. Drink water out of the hose. We got 1 meal a day. Summers were awful because at least we got to go to school Monday through Friday and get something to eat, but the weekends and summer, awful. Like we were thrown out of the house pretty much every day. Um, I'm close with one of my brothers, just one. I love the other ones, but we never really formed the same bond. And he's right after me in age. Like he's my little brother, but he's all of the responsibilities that I had when I lived there fell on him. I have a very good relationship with him. I talk to him daily, sometimes multiple times a day. And that's because of our childhood. I was a thief and a liar at a very young age. I was manipulative, where whatever friend I could find to go and hang out at their house and eat snacks with them, I would do that. But I would never eat all the snacks. I would always save some for my brother. And then we would climb this tree that we always climbed, and I would give him snacks. And if I so happened to steal snacks from the house, our house, like if they left something unlocked, I was stealing it. You know what I mean? And I would always check.
So
Always.
the food was locked up?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Snacks mostly. Anything that was for my mom and dad snack wise. We didn't get snacks. They did. So I would steal like the canned Vienna sausages. My stepdad still loves them. And a pack of Ritz crackers. And once I do that, I would look at my brother. I'm like, come on. And he would come with me. We'd climb the tree and we'd eat them together because we were literally starving. Like it was horrible. I had tried to get some help from like DCF. Like I would talk to the counselor at school, and then I would end up getting in trouble because they did nothing. They would
What
come
is
to our house.
DCF? What's DCF?
Department of Children and Family Services.
Okay.
You know. So they would never take us away, even though we all had bruises. We were all like hungry. Yeah, it was really hard. And then I started to develop skills because I used to like to go out in like the woods and put up a tent for me and my brother. My other siblings never wanted to come, so me and my brother would. So I found like blackberry bushes and wild watermelon patches, and we would eat these things when they were in season, you know. So like we had to survive. We were in survival mode. We were feral, you know. And so me and that brother he left home too and got married at 15. He had his first kid, 15. Same thing for him. I guess we figured if we started our own little family that it would turn out better. Well, it turned out good for him because he's not an alcoholic or an addict. I am. And my mental illness from the trauma that I suffered got worse. And so did my alcoholism, you know, at a very young age. And like I said, the childhood was just not good. It contributed to the flashbacks and memories and things that I wanted to go away and I wanted to forget. And alcohol did that for me. It filled a hole that was inside of me. Alcohol and being tough worked for me for many years, and it stopped working. But I developed that attitude at a very young age, 12, 13. You know, I was drinking. By the time I was 8, I would always steal wine out of my stepfather would get a case of Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill wine. And I would always steal.
8 years old is really, really young.
Yeah. And I steal alcohol. Like I told you, I was a thief. I would steal it and I would put it in a plastic bag, bury it in the yard with the little handle sticking up out of the dirt. So I knew where to go at night when I would sneak out. And I would sneak out. I had an aunt, which was my stepdad's sister. And when she was there, she would come with me. But usually I would walk and follow railroad tracks in the middle of the night. I don't know how I didn't die or get kidnapped. But in the middle of the night, I would walk to a park. I would follow the train tracks to the park, go to the park and drink the wine, and then stumble home. So 8 years old is when that started. Had my first drink. I can't remember what I got for Christmas or my birthday, but I remember my first drink. I was 4 years old and I was being a little sassy. I didn't want to go to bed. So my mom thought it would be a great idea to give me a sip of her coffee, which had Bailey's or rum or something in it. I drank, she goes, only take a sip. And I drank the whole thing. And then I spun around in circles. I felt warm and fuzzy. I remember the feeling. And then she put me to bed. And that was I remember it. Like, I will never forget it. Alcohol became my best friend. 8 years old, like I said, I would steal alcohol. If they had beers or anything like that, steal those.
Was there a reason? Were you depressed, or was it just to
Oh,
be,
very.
or you were mischievous?
I became mischievous because I guess it was better than being pitiful and crying. So I just, at a very young age, was a manipulator. Like I knew how to steal, I knew how to lie, I knew how to do all those things, which makes up an alcoholic addict. You know what I mean? Like all of those qualities are something that most of us share, I guess. Like I don't want to speak for everybody, but for me, the people I've met, it's pretty similar with all of them, that they developed that manipulation and lying and bad habits very early on. So yeah. So for me, my childhood was not good.
Doesn't sound like it. So you were at that point drinking so young. Did anyone other than your family take notice of this?
No,
It was very well
no.
hidden.
They threw us out of the house. Like nobody would see anything, and I don't know. Like I said, manipulator. I would run to the bathroom, take a shower, go to bed. And I could just enjoy that warm, fuzzy feeling that filled up that emptiness inside of me, that where I had no structure. I had no structure. I had nothing. So being tough and getting drunk and being what I was filled that hole for many years. Like I would steal from grocery stores after I had my daughter at 15 just to feed her. And I'm not saying I would steal like $80 steaks or anything or whatever. Like I'm talking like a pack of ramen, macaroni and cheese and hot dogs. Like I wouldn't, but I did what I needed to do to survive. I became a feral survivor. And that was pretty much it. Yeah. My one brother, he's got a very strong moral compass. So he was never able to be that way. So I always had to look out for him. You know what I mean? He's actually a very strong person to this day. Just I love him, like he's my kid. Like, but he's older now. So it's a really weird, that's why we talk every day. I love him. He can tell when I get mad and he shuts down immediately. Like when I get angry, he stops because I don't get angry with him. I love him. So basically very early on drinking, and I knew how to hide it. It was easy.
Being so young, I guess you don't even realize that that's going to lead to something really destructive.
I didn't then, but I know now.
Yeah.
Everything I know.
Hindsight's always 2020, right?
Yeah. I look back and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. At least it makes sense, because before I just felt like a horrible person. I did. I felt like the stealing and manipulating and just everything. Like I thought I was a bad person. I really did.
So at a very young age, you had self-hatred.
Yeah. Yeah. I hated myself, but I had to do what I had to do to survive. I didn't care. I did. I've come to terms with the fact that like I was really not raised. I grew up very feral, you know what I mean? Like a wild animal. And I used to love reading. That was another form of escape for me, was reading. Because we weren't allowed to watch TV in the house when they were home, Yeah.
What kind of stuff did you like to read?
Dragons, anything about another world, anything, nerd stuff. Anne McCaffrey was my favorite. And then as I got older, dark, sinister fantasy, like Anne Rice, Erickson, just a bunch of books. And I got to the point where I stopped like looking at the front. I would just flip the book around and read the, like an introduction to what you'd be reading. If I liked that, I would read the book, and I couldn't tell you the name of the book that I was reading. I would just dive right in, But Anne McCaffrey was my favorite, actually, and The Secret Garden. And I always read books more than once. You know what I mean? Like I read them more and more because it was kind of like a little movie in my head. You know what I mean? Like in my head, it would be like I could see characters in my head, Mm-hmm. And I was diagnosed with depression at 12. Yeah. I was very early age, mentally ill, and an alcoholic, very early age.
So you were diagnosed with depression.
Mhm.
How did it feel? Because being so young, that must have been really, really hard because you don't really understand. At least when you're older, you can kind of say, this is depression. I need to take these steps to try and get better. When you're young, did anyone take you to a therapist or anything like that? Or
No, no, I went to one doctor that said I had depression, and we went home and it didn't matter. Yeah, nothing mattered. It didn't matter that I was suffering. Not to them. None of that mattered.
so you didn't get any medication or
No,
anything?
no, not until I was 17. My ex mother-in-law said that there was something wrong with me and so she'd bring me to the therapist like twice a month. But I was such a good liar and such a good faker, then it seemed like it wasn't even necessary because my attitude would change. I would change because my environment, I would have to talk about all these things. And at this time in my life, I was ashamed because I was a mother too. So I didn't want people to think I was weak, you know? So I had a 2-year-old, and I didn't want people to think I was weak. I didn't want to be on medication. I would rather self-medicate, you know? Um, yeah, so I think for about a year, after a year of going to therapy, that often, it looked like everything was perfect again. Like I was working, I was good, I was not sleeping and, all the time, and I was eating healthy, and I faked it. You know what I'm saying? Like every day I was putting on a mask every single day. I had to tough through it. And basically that's why I got a dog too. So I could not isolate, because I'm an isolator. Like I holed up in my room, and my kids used to just spend time with me in my bedroom. That's it. That's how we would spend time together. They would come in my room while I was sleeping and just play until I woke up, and quietly. They were good kids. I had great kids. I ended up having to send them away too, like when my mental health took a turn for the worst, and my alcoholism, I had to make a decision because I didn't want to put my kids in danger. And like I was blacking out a lot. So I was really scared. And then I talked to my daughter's grandmother, my ex mother-in-law, and she was like, well, just, you might want to think about doing this and then getting yourself better. And then the kids come back. Once I sent the kids away, there was nothing stopping me. Like I thought I was going to get better, but my alcoholism, I started using drugs, hard drugs, so that I could continue drinking more. Yeah,
What
my
kind of
situation,
drugs?
cocaine. Yeah, cocaine. That was a big one for me.
Yeah, it seems for a lot of people that drink, that cocaine is another thing that goes along with it. I
Yeah,
mean,
like
I remember
anything I
when I
would,
was drinking,
yeah.
that was the one thing I hope people had, when we partied, I would do that, to blow a couple lines in the bathroom at a club, go outside, go mingle.
Yeah, that first beer, I was thinking, what would go good with this? About $100 worth of cocaine. That would go great with this beer right now. Because once I finish that pack of beer, I'm going to be drunk. So I can snap out of it. I'll have the bag of Coke. So that was always hand in hand for me. Like when I started to deteriorate and get worse. Yeah.
So tell us about your adolescence. What was it like in school? Did you graduate? Well, I know you said when 14, you had your daughter. Did you finish school?
Yeah. Well, I ended up finishing school when she went back to school, and then I went to college. I didn't graduate. I think I had like 12 credits left. And then I left school. Yeah. So I did finish high school. I got my GED, but then I went to college and I didn't finish college. So I like left like this much left. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I actually was really doing well when I went to school and when I finished school, and I was really proud of myself. But alcohol always has a way of slipping right back in, you know. So those things didn't matter anymore.
Being so young, did you ever at any point say, I have a problem and I need to get help? Or were you, I don't know if you were even mature enough to say that, you know what I mean? You were so young.
I was never asking for help. I was too stubborn for that. Like I said, I didn't like people that were raised in good family homes. That's how oh, I have a problem. I need help. I was raised different. Like I said, I was raised to only rely on myself because somebody would see you as weak. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to reach out and ask for help. I wanted to, okay, I'm going to stop drinking. So I would stop drinking for a while. I think I had 6 years at one point. Yeah. That was the longest stretch I had went, was 6 years without a program. I did it all by myself, but I was a miserable bitch, miserable, just awful. Never to my kids though. For some reason, like that, you know, stigma didn't hit me. Like I wasn't abusive to my children, but I did have abuse because I was depressed and I wasn't taking care of my health. And in turn, the only time I would get up would be to cook for them. And I'd go back to bed, cook for them, tell them, come in my room, watch a movie, whatever. And they like, I was turning my kids into isolators. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the kind of abuse I was doing. Like, they would see me, I'm sad, I'm in bed, I get up, they're hungry. Okay, I'll feed you. I didn't hit my kids. Even when I was drunk, oh God, it was, I think I made my daughter listen to me read. And she was like, you were slur. She's 28 now. She's like, you would slur, you stunk of alcohol. She's like, you were just like, I love you. And she's like, ew, it was just, she goes, I cringe thinking of it. Like, you know, she laughs about it now. So yeah, my oldest pretty much saw, you know, and retained like all of who I am. But she's not like me at all. Like nothing like me. I mean, she's strong and she's got a good moral compass. And that's all I wanted her to have. All my kids, I wanted them to never think it was okay to hurt people or say nasty things or, you know, but we do that to each other. Like we ping pong insults back and forth and we think it's funny, but the way we act in public is totally different. We actually have manners, you know, but when we're home, there's no manners. There's no manners at all.
So when you were young and you were trying to make sure everyone's fed, did you have a job?
Yeah, I worked.
What
I
were
was
you
a
doing?
butcher. I was a butcher. I also had a cleaning houses for Section 8 homes, which was so disgusting. Ugh.
How old were you?
God, I did that from 19, and I also worked part-time at Subway as well.
How did you support your child? Because you said you had the first one at 14. How did you support? Was it a boy or girl? Your first daughter?
A girl.
Okay.
Yeah, I started working for a grocery store at 15.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would always leave a job if I was moving or whatever. I would always leave a job on respectful terms. Like I worked for Albertsons, Winn-Dixie, and Food Lion. I transferred from Food Lion up north. They were called Sweet Bay in Florida. Or Cash and Carry too. Yeah, they were called Cash and Carry for a while there too.
So you really, really had a lot on your plate at a very young age.
Yeah, I had to pay all the bills basically to watch my kids sleep at night. I didn't get, and when I was home, like I said, I was depressed.
Did you have your own place?
Yeah, of course. But when I started to burn out, like I would burn out, you know.
How was it for you when you were depressed? What kind of symptoms do you get?
Oh God. Sleepy, starving myself, body dysmorphia, like feelings of worthlessness, night terrors, a lot back then. I still have some of those symptoms now, actually. Basically the depression, the fatigue, night terrors, flashback memories, panic attacks, very early age. And then as an adult, I have medication now, so I don't suffer the way I did back then. And now because of the PTSD, my brain kind of dumps everything. So I have memory issues. Like I have severe memory issues. Like I can be hungry right now, go in the kitchen and make myself a sandwich. Oh, I got to wash my hands because I got mayonnaise or whatever, I don't just like lick it off. I'll just go wash my hands, and I'll totally forget. I'll get sidetracked, and then I'll totally forget that I was hungry, totally forget that I made food, and I'll come lay down, sit down. Yeah. And then when I figure it out, I'll go back, and by that time the bread's stale and I'm throwing away my lunch. So yeah. And now that I have good mental health care, I'm a lot different actually. So, but back then I was very, very depressed. And like I said, with the PTSD at a very early age, my brain would dump recent memories. Like I would meet someone and they'd be like, "Oh, hi, Angie." And I'm like, "Who the fuck are you?" Excuse my language, but I'm like, "Oh, hi." I would, like I said, fake it. I would fake everything. I was so fake. So fake. So if I remember somebody now, that means they left an impression on me. And that's pretty much how it is. If they leave no impression on me, if there's nothing that I can identify with myself, which is I'm very selfish too. As a matter of fact, I'm very selfish. If I can't identify with someone, then I don't remember them. Takes me a while. And I always use the excuse, I'm better with faces than I am with names. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. That's a lie. It's a big lie.
So at what point in your life did you say, I'm doing too much coke, I'm drinking too much? I mean,
No.
did you even have it being so young? Did you even have a social life really?
When I was younger?
Yeah, I mean, when you had children and you're 19, you're working full time and all that stuff.
I had an apartment I was paying for, sir. I had no money so if anybody wanted to hang, I have friends, but they were friends that smoked weed, drank, did drugs, and like anything that made them come to my house and have something for me. They can come to my house and hang out. My house was the chill spot, but they had to wait until my daughter went to sleep. So I was a mom from 6 in the morning till whenever she went to sleep at night. And then as soon as she went to sleep, I was a piece of shit. Like that's how I felt. I would just start drinking and using drugs and then pass out. I think for God, well over a decade. I don't even think I ever slept. I think I just passed out drunk. Yeah, there was never like, oh, I'm going to go to sleep. No, it was, why am I on the floor with the couch pillows on the floor? Like, why am I here? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I for the most part always made it to bed, but I know what you're talking about because I drank myself till I passed out every night. And until recently, until I got out of rehab, well, that's 2 years ago now, but I realized how important sleep is because I hadn't really actually slept in well over 10 years, well over a decade.
Yeah, well over a decade for me too.
And when you think of, I saw a great saying, it was a meme. It said, "One time I misplaced a decade." It's so true.
That's
What it
good.
felt
Yeah.
like when I
That
came back.
resonates. Yeah, that resonates with me.
Yeah, when I come back or when I came back from rehab, I just felt clear. My body was clear of all poisons or whatever, and I was able to think better
I
and
never
feel
did rehab.
better.
I did IOP.
You did IOP.
Yeah.
What got you into that? What was the reason? When was the
Oh,
first time did you ever at a point say, it's too much, I can't handle it?
all the time, but it didn't matter. Like it started to not matter. I mean, I didn't care if I was too much. People had to accept me at being too much. So I found friends that thought that I was funny, that my antics and shenanigans when I was drunk was funny. Like I would wake up with bruises. I'm like, what happened? They're like, you fell like a million times. And I'm like, great, it's perfect. I would get into fights, not remember, blackout fights, wake up, my jaw hurts, somebody decked me. Yeah, and I'm being dead ass on that. Wake up with like a ruptured blood vessel in my eye. Like my eye looked like it was bloody. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it was. It was very crazy. Chased people out of my house because my ex-husband was probably flirting and drunk me would protect me from that crap, drunk me would fight. I knocked 6 of his teeth out of his mouth by
Really?
hitting it. Yeah. I still have the scars on my knuckles. Yeah. Every time he brushes his teeth, he thinks about me, I'm sure.
Oh God.
He's got a permanent bridge. It's awful. Yeah. I did a lot of things, and that's not me. Like it's so funny that I talk about it because sometimes I feel like it was somebody else living my life. Like, is this person right here, me? I'm a everything I did. I'm like, but when I one drink, the first one, I am instant, like all of that shit melts away, like all of my shame, all of my guilt, all of my disgusted feelings, gone. And then this new persona takes over, and I'm like the best thing ever, in my opinion. Like, just nothing mattered the minute I took a drink. Yeah. At a very young age. Very young age, I was like that.
So what drove you to IOP?
I had went to get a friend of mine, she was dope sick and she was calling me all day and she wanted to borrow money. And I'm like, I'll go get it for you. You don't have to worry about it. So I went to her guy. I got her a Suboxone. It would have been cheaper to get her heroin, but thank God I didn't get her heroin because I got pulled over and I had the Suboxone. The police confiscated the Suboxone. They didn't arrest me right then. They told me that the state's attorney would pick up charges, and the state's attorney did. I was facing 5 years in prison, but I had to complete a IOP program for 12 months and I would be on probation for 18 months. So that's what got me help and got me into AA and got me into a program where I learned about why I act the way I act because of the trauma that I have. And I learned that I had PTSD, not just depression. I had PTSD, BPD, general social anxiety disorder. I had a lot of problems, and they called them concurring disorders because it was on top of addiction, because the addiction was like a totally different egg from the mental illness egg. Like they were two different entities. Yes.
I've
And
written about that. It's called, it is also called comorbidity. Like you said, it's just when you have two things going on at once.
Yeah. I had a lot of mental illness and I had a lot of addiction issues, lots. And I did not see myself because I worked, and I would go to work drunk. I didn't care. I'd go to work drunk all the time. I would just do a bump and go to work. That's how it was.
So what was IOP like?
Oh, it was in the beginning, it was so frustrating. And I just was not, my ego was so huge. I was so defensive. I withheld, like I omitted things. That's the way I like to lie as well, like by omission. Like you can ask me a question, I'll just walk past you. Like I don't answer. Hello, you can tell me I'm not talking to you. Like that was my response. I'm not talking to you. I don't feel like talking right now. And they forced it was kind of like they drug it out of me. You know what I mean? Like everything that I was feeling. And I had to pee twice a week. I had to drop urine twice a week. So there was no balancing, my addiction with their rotation of your urinalysis. You called the number, they gave you a color. If it was your color, you had to go pee. And there was no, like, because you need at least 3 or 4 days. So there was no way that I could balance it out, like where I could actively use and then not piss dirty. And also, if you ever pee out of range, like if you flood your system with water, which is something that I did for my probation, but never for them. Like, I don't know why. Like, if I went to probation, because I still would drink and stuff, so I would just flood my system with water. And probation, they didn't care. But IOP, if you came up out of range, they took a hair sample and they would know everything that you had done for the past 6 months. So there was really, like, I don't know. I just never peed out of range for them. They never had a UA for me that was out of range. But for probation, if I had drank, like say I peed all week and I didn't have to pee, like if I had to pee on Friday, it was like, okay, I can go drink now today and then drink tomorrow and then just let, you know what I'm saying, give myself 2 days.
Yeah.
So yeah, I struggled with that in the beginning. Like it really, I was faking it to make it. They were like, fake it to make it. I had friends tell me that. And I'm like, how the fuck am I going to fake it to make it? Like I can't even see a good window of opportunity. And sometimes I didn't give a shit about the window of opportunity. You know, it got so bad. Like my drug court evaluator says, if you don't make it at this program, you're going to prison. Like he said that to me. He's like, you're going to prison. And I was like, ooh, maybe I should take this more serious. And I was forging all of my AA papers that they give you to turn in.
Oh, like to say you actually went there?
Them. Yeah, I was forging them. I was having people sign their name. And I went to a couple of meetings and I cried and I clicked with it, but I didn't want to go. So I'd have my friends sign the paper for me. Yeah. And I was a liar. Like I said, liar, manipulator, thief. I mean, I was all those things for a long time. And I think whenever I realized, you know, that my mom had suffered trauma, like they helped me realize that. And then that's why she was so abusive to me. I didn't forgive her, but like I understood. You know what I mean? I understood, but there was no forgiveness there. I was like, fuck you. You're a grown ass woman. You know what I'm saying? You shouldn't have had kids if you didn't want kids. Or give me to my dad or something. You know what I mean? She just, yeah. I was a paycheck basically because she got AFDC, which is Aid for Dependent Children in Florida for me.
What is it called?
AFDC. It was AIDS. It was Aid for Dependent Children. Aid for dependent. Like my mom would get a certain allotted amount of money and food stamps, and that's how. Like that's why she didn't let me go with my dad. I was a paycheck. So, yeah, and she let me know that. She also, because I'm mixed, like my dad's Puerto Rican and my mom is German. My mom used to tell me I was lucky that I came out white enough. She used to tell me that because if I would have came out looking more Hispanic, she would have probably given me up for adoption. She would say these things to me. Yeah. And she could have at any point left me with my dad. Anytime she could have just left me with my dad because he wanted me. She didn't want me. He wanted me. So
did he ever try and get custody? Did he ever try and get custody of you?
They were never married, and she didn't put him on my birth certificate, and he couldn't find her. He couldn't find her. She went to Florida, and she told everybody that if they told him where she was, she'd never talk to them again. Like she threatened people, you know, like my grandfather, grandmother, godmother. And we never went back to New York ever.
So at what point did you start taking IOP seriously? Was there anything that led to you?
Yeah, when I got the understanding of why my mom was so abusive and I understood, I started to look at the program a little differently, and maybe that they were right about other things that I needed to look at. And I started to like really cry because like I don't think I cried for years. Like, I didn't cry for years. I didn't cry. Like nothing. Like I said, nothing really mattered. So, and I didn't hurt my kids. I spanked her one time, my 28-year-old, and I ended up throwing up because I felt like a bully. Yeah, like 3 smacks on her ass, and I got sick. And then she's patting my back, telling me it's okay because she did a bad thing. I was like, I'm never gonna hit you again. I told her, I said, you'll never have to worry about me hitting you again, baby girl, because I can't do it. I said, but if you do something stupid and you do something that I need to reprimand you for, I will your toy you'll have nothing. I was like, because that's the only way I can punish you. I can't hit you. So she was a good girl. She was very good. She was a very good kid. My other kids are good too.
How did you actually get sober? What happened after IOP or during IOP? When did you finally this? I know, like
When
you
I
said,
went into AA, and the same women that were there my first time there were still there. And since I already knew them, I kind of gravitated towards them. And one woman, oh my God, she was a nightmare. She, like my sponsor, my first sponsor, holy shit. She was, it was the kind of love I needed though, because I was such an abused person. Like I needed somebody that was going to be honest, assertive, you know what I'm saying? Forceful, even. Like she was like, you're going to, right when I had 90 days, she handed me a key. She's like, you have noon on Thursday. That's your meeting, noon on Thursday. You're chairing it. I was like, what? What? I don't even, what? She's like, you've been to enough meetings. You know, I was, because I used to live in the meeting place too. Like there was so many meetings per day there. And I would go to any and all of them when it first started. Like I said, when they made me realize that, you know, that I might have a problem and that I might need to think about taking care of it. And aren't you getting anything from AA is what they asked. Do you have a sponsor yet? I'm like, no, you know, I couldn't fake it anymore. They were starting to see through my forged paper. So I finally started taking it seriously. And then I did the steps and like realizing my part and everything too. Like it was just jarring for me. You know what I mean? Like it was like, ugh.
you mean
God.
when you did the fourth step and seeing?
Yes. I was like, ugh. And I broke in, you know, like I hurt people. I lie. And that's where I discovered I'm a liar. I'm this, I'm that. I used to look at it like I've been the truth. I'm not really that bad. I was horrible. And this woman like dragged everything out of me too. Like I needed the people that were doing these things. Like I believe that I needed them. You know what I mean? Like to help me understand. I turned that 12-month program, that IOP, into a 16-month program because I didn't want to leave, because I was scared once I graduated, I was going to go right back to the way my miserable life was before. I was terrified. And that's where I'm telling you, I really honed in on AA, and they became family. You know what I mean? And I ran that meeting. I made coffee. I took out trash. I cleaned the bathroom. You know, I swept the floors. I did everything. Sometimes I wouldn't even close up because there was a 5 o'clock meeting and I would do the noon meeting. So for like 3 or 4 hours, whoever came and saw the door open, we'd play Uno or play cards or dominoes and yeah, just anything. I just didn't want to be I just didn't want to be by myself anymore. Like I don't really know when that switch went off, because I still isolate to this day. But when I was in Tampa in that first program, I didn't want to be by myself, but I was surrounded by all these people that I felt so comfortable with, and I still felt lonely. And that was something that I had to struggle with, like knowing that I was so lonely inside, even being around people that I cared about. It was like, wow, why do I feel like this? And my sponsor's like, you're not putting alcohol in you anymore. You're feeling. The good thing is you can feel. The bad thing is you can feel. I was like she said it to me like I should have just known. I'm like, what is that? What are you talking about? And you know, she just explained it to me. She's like, you're finally starting to detox from what you've done to yourself for so many years. It's finally stopping. Like you're not going to have that full feeling anymore. You're going to have to fill it with good things and not just, you know. So then I started taking my nieces to park. I mean, I would take them downtown. I started doing fun things. So when I started doing those things, and I had to do one hospital stay because that empty feeling really got me. And my brother's like, I'm taking you to the hospital because you look like you want to kill yourself. He's like, I don't even know why you're crying right now. So he took me to the hospital, and I stayed for 3 weeks in the hospital. And then when I came out, you know, I was on medication, but of course, me being bipolar, I started feeling better. So I stopped taking the meds. It wasn't until I got here to Jersey that I realized that I had to do the mental health. And even if I was feeling better, I couldn't stop taking the medications because I had so many excuses. I was like, these are going to have side effects. And what if you're just getting addicted to these things? And, so there was all kinds of excuses rushing around in my brain because that's what my disease does. It confuses me, makes me think, oh, alcohol would be better because you'll calm down. One shot, you'll be calm. You'll be good. Just one. No, I didn't relapse when I was in Tampa at all. It wasn't until I got here to Jersey, I went to one meeting here and I wasn't on any mental health help. And I just started drinking about 3 months after I decided to never go to meetings here because I didn't like the people. It was a perfect escape I needed to do what I wanted to do, what my disease wanted me to do as well. You know what I mean? So I ran for about 2.5 years. And then finally, I resented my ex because he wanted to get sober. And he was the one who told me, if you ever try to get sober or if you ever want me to get sober, we're breaking up. And I was like, perfect, because I wanted to do drugs and drink until I died. So he is the one reason why I came back this time. And I'm still here, trying my best. Progress, not perfection.
Exactly. That's all anyone can do is try.
Yeah.
So tell us about being sober now. How's life now that you're sober?
Well, relationships are still a bit fickle. Friendships are good, but I don't know. I need to stay away for a while from relationships, like romantic relationships. I'm a better friend than I am, and I can't. I am closer with my family. I have a humongous network, including Addicts Anonymous and AA. I have a ton of people that I talk to on a daily basis. You know what I mean? Like I talk to them every day, at least either from my network or from this network of people. I talk to somebody. There's never a day that goes by that I can't have somebody that I relate to and I can talk to about mental health and drugs and alcohol, and they can relate. Like it feels so good to not feel alone in that struggle, especially when I'm having a hard day. It's not like I want to rush out to the liquor store every time I have a bad day, but I have people to call. You know what I mean? And if I don't make that call, then there's going to be another day I don't make that call, and then another day. And then I might become so far gone and isolate myself so badly that I can slip up. And I'm just not going to accept that now. I mean, I have lost 2/3 of my life to drugs and alcohol. My relationship with my kids, I'm going to probably be working on repairing that for the rest of my life because they're going to be asking questions. And they're going to want answers and I'm going to have to give it to them. You know what I mean? So I have to be the person that I am today, the person that wants to grow and the person that wants to stay sober and stay mentally healthy, self-care. I take care of myself. I eat properly. I'm doing a lot of things that regard my health, and my recovery is so important to that as well, because I can't do all these good things and not be sober because I won't care. And that's what one drink would do to me. I wouldn't care anymore. And I want to care. Like I feel full now. Instead of empty, I feel full because I know that I can call anybody and they can identify with what I'm going through that day. Like to have that is miraculous, because when I first came, and I always say the newcomers, they're my miracles because they show me that you can come back, you can, but it's easier to stay than come back. And they survived their ODs, they survived everything, and they're still right there. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, you guys make me happy when I see the newcomer. Like I love beginners meetings and I like speaker meetings because they fill me up, and I have to maintain at least one meeting a day. And if I can't do a meeting a day, I'm doing a commitment. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't just let my day get away from me. Oh, where did the time go? No, that doesn't happen. I set alarms on my phone to let me know when I have to go to a meeting. And if my meeting doesn't conflict with a commitment, then I'm perfect. Then I'm getting two things that are super. So like I kind of, I'm addicted to recovering. You know what I mean? So that's a good addiction. Like I want I always want to grow as a person, because the more I grow, the better I feel. For some reason, that's what's been happening to me. Like the happiness that they said I would feel, I'm starting to feel. And I didn't think it was possible when I first came into this program. I thought I was a hopeless, helpless case. Like I was just going to be a miserable, see you next Tuesday for the rest of my life. And you know what I mean? Like I was thinking like, I don't make friends like this. You know what I'm saying? Like it was hard for me, but once I started and I started meeting people and I started talking to people and doing something every day and not letting my mental health get away from me, maintaining my mental health, like the program became so much more precious to me, not just for my recovery, but for my mental health as well. Because I always feel like I have somebody that's going to be able to talk to me or even text me and be like, hey, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? How are you feeling right now? They say those things. Like, I don't have to say, oh, well, my day is kind of crappy. I don't have to say, they're already wondering, hey, what's your day like today? What are you doing? You want to go grab coffee? I'm like, sure, I fucking love coffee. I don't have to make it. So that's great. Today, the promises that they tell you in AA, like I haven't really had a chance to dive into this program as much as I have AA, but I'm as dedicated. Like I really want to learn more. And so for me, it's progress, not perfection. So this is just another thing in my life that's going to require me to grow as a person, to accept it. You know what I mean? Like to help
Absolutely.
people. Yeah. So it's just another form of growth to have another program and have AA as well. Like I have both and I like both. Both has been very good for me, not stifling. So, I don't feel like I'm burnt out. I feel like I hung out with a friend. You know what I mean? It's not like it's not like a job. It is a job, but it's not like a job.
Understood.
It's constant. It's constant. And I may not hit the floor like people say, like, because I believe in spiritual energy. I don't, the God thing for me is energy. You guys, like you and people that I've met in the groups, that's my energy. Like I feed off of their vibes. God isn't Santa Claus, and God doesn't have to be a man with a beard in the sky waiting for me to dance in his clouds. I believe everything is energy and we're all connected. So everything that happens is important. So even if it's bad, like me getting dumped twice in a month, like that's something that should have happened. I'm glad it did, because it taught me that I'm not ready. You know what I mean? So I have
There's
to connect
always a
everything.
lesson to be learned.
Yeah, there is. It's progress. I like that. I can constantly do something different to progress and get better and
Yep.
better. I wonder
Absolutely.
I wonder how many people I can help one day with just sharing with them and talking to them. I have hope, and I never had that before.
I'm very happy for you. That sounds great. So let me ask you one last question. I ask everybody this. What advice do you have for anybody watching or listening?
Yeah, that's a good one. If you make it to the rooms, stay. If you make it to a program that makes you feel comfortable and you can identify with anything, stay, because it's so much easier to stay than it is to come back. And sometimes those overwhelming feelings that you failed, you didn't fail. Progress, not perfection. You're progressing. And if you go back out and you relapse, it's not the end of the world. Relapse is a part of my recovery too. Relapse is a part of my story. So never feel like you're so helpless or hopeless like I felt. Like just try to wash those feelings away by surrounding yourself with a program that's going to work for you and get what you need out of it. Don't try to take everything, take little bits at a time. Don't bite off more than you can chew. A lot of people try to dive into like really head first, and hey, because you have plenty of time to do the steps again, just get them knocked out the first time, work on the major things, and you have time. You have time now because you're sober. You're not going to OD. You're not going to die of liver failure. You're working on yourself. You know what I mean? Even if you are facing those things, work on yourself. You don't know how many people have gotten healthy by just staying off of alcohol and drugs. And you can change everything by doing that. That's it.
And that's it.
That's it.
Thank you so much for coming and doing the podcast today. How do you feel?
Good. It feels great. It feels really great.
Yeah, I told you it'd be fun.
Yeah, it is. It was fun. Thank you.
All right. So now it's time for my sales pitch. For everybody watching and listening, if you like what you heard, go below and give us a like. Also subscribe to the channel so you'll see when we upload new videos. You can see us on Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and on our Facebook page, there is some information as well as our Facebook group. So I suggest you join both. And I want to thank everyone for watching and listening. And until next time.